Hey everyone, Kevin here. Yesterday I published a video and I talked about pre-mining rigs or pre-configured mining rigs, and I talked about them being overpriced. But I wanted to do a follow-up and I wanted to explain what I believe is the main downside to buying a pre-configured or pre-made mining rig. I'll link to the video so you can check yesterday's video out, but it was in response to a question from Bill who was asking about this mining rig. And when you looked at the prices, you know, the guy was charging, it worked out $450 per card, and the card was only being sold for like $327. So, you know, this guy is selling cards way over the recommended retail price, way over what you could buy new. And remember, if you buy a rig like this pre-built and you need to return a component to Amazon or to Newegg or to whoever, you don't know directly who the seller is. Yes, this guy is providing receipts, but it's just so much easier to handle things directly when when you've bought things new. But that's not to say that I wouldn't buy a pre-configured mining rig if it was cheap enough. But you know, I explored this in the video yesterday. I looked at eBay, I looked at a lot of different places. They're all way overpriced. Now, Richard left a very, very good comment, so I just want to read this out to you. I don't know if I can make this bigger. Let's make it a little bit bigger there. Right, he says, I agree that building second-hand is risky. However, there are companies that offer brand new pre-built mining rigs. Check out Mining Cave from Canada or Mining Store US. Even if those rigs are overpriced, and of course they need to make a profit, I for one would happily pay a significant premium for these rigs. Sourcing and buying all the hardware, spending hours watching videos and reading tutorials, then actually building the rig and figuring out how to set it up takes a huge amount of time and a level of experience and expertise that I simply don't have, and I'm happy to pay someone else for theirs. For me, it all comes down to return on investment. If we accept that 10% is a decent return on investment for any assets, shares, stocks, real estate, etc., then the question is, what does mining deliver? If we can make an entire mining rig investment back within 1 year, then that's 100% ROI. If I overpay by 25% for buying a pre-built mining rig, then my return on investment is still 80%, which is still objectively excellent. So am I prepared to pay $500 to $1,000 more for someone else's time and expertise? Absolutely, in a heartbeat. Any takers? Firstly, absolutely fantastic comment from Richard. I 100% agree. You know, I agree with his point, and I can 100% agree where he is coming from. I think, you know, if you're like, I'm someone that came from, you know, experience with building computers. I'm kind of techie in that respect, I guess. I'm not saying I'm a PC expert or a PC whiz, but you know, I've built my own PCs before, so building mining rigs was actually easier in many respects. So I can see that, and I can also see, you know, if he's very busy with his time and he doesn't have the time, and he knows that mining can give a really good return on investment, then why not just buy a pre-made mining rig? Now, from that perspective, and in Richard's position, and people in Richard's position, I can see why people would go out there and pay over the odds for a pre-built mining rig like this. I mean, this does look like a well-made, pre-made, pre-configured mining rig. It doesn't look like it's, you know, shoddily made. It looks like he's did everything that he should have done. It looks like he's used good parts. There isn't any problem. In fact, I wouldn't even have used 8GB RAM there. I would use 4. But yeah, I can see 100% where Richard is coming from. But there is a but, and it's the point of this video. The problem with that is that mining rigs don't work 100% of the time. Now, this, if you bought a pre-built mining rig and it just ran for 2 or 3 years and you never had to do anything, then that's fine. Buy it pre-built. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. Things do go wrong. You'll see I've got risers in the background there. Risers are one of the things that go wrong a lot, but you can run into other problems like, you know, Windows updates when it shouldn't. Graphics cards, for some reason, one doesn't spin. The fans aren't working the same as the other ones. You need to start to troubleshoot what's happening. Now, in theory, if they bought from a good company, they would have did all this, and you wouldn't run into too many problems. But I say in theory because it doesn't matter how good you are at building mining rigs. There will come a point where something will go wrong. A hard drive will fail, RAM will fail, the motherboard might fry, the graphics card might fry. Something bad will happen. Now, here's the problem. When you've bought it pre-made, pre-configured, what do you do? What do you do? Because I do acknowledge the fact that you know, spending hours watching videos and reading tutorials, then actually building, figuring out how to set it up takes a huge amount of time and a level of experience. I 100% agree. But what I would also say is that the lessons you will learn when you are building a rig are priceless. And quite frankly, if you don't want to learn that, I mean, a hardline approach would say if you're not willing to put in that time to learn how a mining rig works, then you probably shouldn't probably shouldn't buy a mining rig. I would kind of lean towards that, because you could be lucky. You could buy a mining rig and it runs great for a year, but you could be very unlucky as well. And it's nothing to do with the company that builds the rigs. You know, it's just the silicon lottery. A lot of graphics cards will fail. A lot of parts will fail. You know, you've got a lot of different components working together for a mining rig to work. So it is time consuming looking at tutorials. It is time consuming set it up. As far as actually building the PC, as far as building the mining rig, it's not that difficult. In fact, I believe that it's actually easier than building a PC, because you don't have to cram it all into one big case, or one small case rather. You can just put it open air, and you can, you know, it's easier to put it all together. I could build a new mining rig in like 20 minutes or less than that, and then, you know, maybe another hour or so to install the software. But this is where you really do need to know what you're doing, because when you install the software, you have to install the right components. You need to make a couple of Windows updates, and you need to change things in the BIOS as well. And if you're not doing that and you're not learning that, then you're going to be lost if anything goes wrong. Because believe me, when something goes wrong, it isn't always apparent what's wrong. It could be one of many different things, and it's basically trial and error. Is this working? Yeah, this is working. Test this against this. Test that against that. You need to kind of go down a list and check what's working and what's not working. Now, if I mean, I guess if to look at Richard's point of view, you could argue the point that one of the best ways to learn about that would to be buy one pre-made and then mess around with it. But again, if you've not watched those videos, if you've not watched those tutorials, there's a chance you might change the BIOS or make a change that will stop your rig from working. So say you don't have the time to build a mining rig, you don't have the time to watch a tutorial, you could go out and you could buy one pre-made. So you've now got a pre-made mining rig. This is my imaginary rig here. You've got it sitting here, and you go, right, now I'm going to learn how this works, and you start tweaking some things and all that. But if you make you know, if you change something and you haven't looked at all those tutorials, chances are you could change something that might stop the rig from working. And where are you? Now you are back at the start where you would have been before anyway. So I think that whether you build it yourself or whether you buy it pre-configured, you really should be looking at these tutorials. You really should know how to troubleshoot a mining rig going wrong. Now, I've set mine up to the point where I had like, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks there, I never had to do anything. I did a couple of auto reboots because one of the cards wasn't spinning right. But apart from that, 100% remote, I didn't do anything at all. But the other day, one of the rigs just switched off. And I don't know why. I had to just manually go over and switch it off and check everything was okay. But it was running okay, but you do get kind of gremlins in the system. So, yes, you can buy a pre-configured mining rig. But due to the fact that these prices, you know, the premium that you're paying for these mining rigs is so high, and the fact that no mining rig is 100% free from trouble, you're going to run into problems. You're going to run into little gremlins in the systems, and when that happens, you're going to have to go back and look at all these tutorials and all these you know, videos explaining how you do it anyway. So why not just learn it from the start? So yes, I do realise some people are short on time, but if you can devote some time at the start and you get a better understanding of how to build a mining rig, how to, you know, change the BIOS, how to tweak the software, and then you will be in a position to modify it and to troubleshoot if anything does go wrong. If you don't do that and you buy it pre-built, when something does go wrong, you're lost. And this is where you need to go back and do what you should have did at the start. So that's my opinion on it. I realise a lot of people will disagree with that. If you could buy pre-built mining rigs at a good price, it might be a little bit of a different story. But I think my main point here still remains true. I think that if you're going to get involved in mining, I think it's very important that you learn how to build it, you learn how to tweak it, you learn how to troubleshoot it with regards to hardware or software. You need to know what is wrong when something does go wrong, and it can be the difference between your rig being off for 5 minutes and your rig being off for 5 days because you don't have a clue what's going on. So I do understand where Richard is coming from, But I also strongly believe that if you do want to get involved in mining, you really do need to know how this works. This isn't a plug and play type situation. This isn't a, buy a mining rig, sit it there and come back in a year and collect your money. That is not how this works. This is a hands-on job. You can, minimize how much work you do, but yeah, you need to get involved and you need to get your hands dirty. So I really do appreciate Richard leaving that comment. I think he brought up some really good points, and it gives me an understanding of why people are paying a premium for these mining rigs. But personally, as someone who's been running a mining rig, and I'm sure many other people who have mining rigs will agree, things don't always go to plan. When things hit the crapper, you want to know how to fix them. Thanks for watching, guys. Please do leave a comment below, and I'll speak to you all in the next one. Take care.